Hey, experts listeners. I want to key you into something that we do very special here at Ops Experts Club, and that's a masterclass. We have a free masterclass called Foundations That Scale. And the great thing about this masterclass is it's for operation professionals who are growing businesses. One of the most dangerous things you can do as an operator is grow businesses on a foundations that's not stable. So in this particular masterclass, we take apart all of the inside pieces of your team, your tech, and how they're using time. And we make sure that you're building on a foundation that's stable. So if you want to check out a great masterclass completely for free, go to foundationsthatscale.com. We'll see you there.
Welcome to the Ops Experts Club with Aaron, Terryn, and Savannah. This podcast will take you behind the scenes of some of the finer details of multi-million-dollar companies. These ops experts have dealt with operations for scaling companies and well-established businesses with anywhere from small to large teams. If you've ever been deep into the details of a major company, then you know how much it takes, and these conversations are just for you. Welcome to the Ops Experts Club podcast.
Ops Experts Club. How you doing today, buddy? How's the day?
Good. Yeah, it's going well. Had some client meetings, which were fun. Reviewing contracts, necessary part of an operator.
It is not the funnest part of being an operator, but definitely a necessary part of being an operator, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Weather's been good in beautiful, just outside of Seattle, Washington.
Yeah, we had a dry April, which has been very odd, but fun.
Yeah, man, the weather's just been starting to get good down here. Like some sunshine, cool days still, though it's not cooking, so it just makes it nice. This is my favorite. Cool days, sunshine, I'll take it every day. Hey, so today, it was a good entrance. You talked about contracts, because today we're going to talk a little bit about finance, how to clean up your back of shop, how to make sure you really understand your finance numbers, the importance of understanding your finance numbers. But I think that what you touched on there was a really good point that I'd love to make sure we include today, and that is making sure whoever's handling your finance numbers understand the contracts, right? Understand the agreements. Like, are we paying full outright? Are they paying us? Like, there's a whole element there that I think a lot of times get lost. So I'm excited to talk about the topic today of cleaning up the back of shop. Let's get your finances in order. Sound good?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, love it. And I think that contract conversation can fit right in well too, because you want to make sure there's terms in there that are favorable to you.
Dude, like bread and butter, brother. We're going to just like butter that piece of bread all the way down the street. It's going to be good.
Yeah. Buttered both sides. It's
Butter both, two sides of bread. I'll tell you what, it's not, it gets a little less tasty in my perspective when you're buttering both sides, but some people are like the butter, so I get it. Okay, so let's talk about it. So, Terryn, I know for us, and I was just having a conversation with a client today about it. And, I think when we start talking about finances, especially back of shop, a lot of visionaries start getting super anxious because typically they're not good at this part, right? This is not the part that they've ever been good at, right? They've always been good at knocking down dollars, and they've always been really good at just like what Mike Michalowicz would talk about of like bank statement accounting. You know what I mean? Where it's like they're just opening up the banking app, seeing how much money's in the account. They're like, yeah, that's good. I should be able to push go. Yeah, that's good. I should be able to push go. The downside of that is when the money starts dropping, maybe it's a certain time of the month where the money's not coming in, there's a lot of anxiety that can begin to ride in their chest because they're just looking at their bank balance accounting, which is not the best way to do books. I understand why people travel fast. And I mean, it's great if you're sitting deep, right? If you've got a lot of cash on reserves and you maybe have a marker in your mind, if you just don't want to drop below there, then you're like, yeah, it's important to me to clean up the books, but it's probably not as important as when you're traveling a little bit more lean. And then you're just like sugarfoot. Like, can I say this? Can I not say yes to this? And so I think it's really important for us to talk through, how do I clean up the back of my house? How do I clean up the books for my business? What are some pitfalls I need to be careful of? What are some first things I need to make sure I'm tackling first? And so maybe we could kick off there. What are the things that come to your mind, Terryn, when you think about conversations with clients? I mean, seriously, 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, that we come into working with, as soon as we start talking about the finance side of things, they start getting real weird, start getting real anxious, or getting real awkward because they're not confident in their numbers. Would you agree with that first?
Yeah, for sure. They're not confident in their numbers and they're a little embarrassed. They know they've been successful. They've got money. They're paying people. They've got sales coming in. But if you were to ask them specific questions, like how much are you paying on labor? How much are you paying on your tech stack? Then we audit tech stack. That's when they might clam up a little bit.
Because I mean, let's be honest. Most people have started as a solopreneur, right? Almost every client we've worked with, right, has started out as a dude or a gal that's got a great idea and have gotten people to say yes, right? And then the thing starts to take off and they start grabbing their, what Pedro Adeo would call your WIT folks, whatever it takes, right? These are the people that are going to be my ride and die. These are the people that I'm going to grab that are maybe family, friends, maybe some of your first buyers that really believe in your product, and you grab and you pull them into team. But what you're really doing for most visionaries, for most entrepreneurs, is you're grabbing skill sets that are not yours, because you probably still are pretty confident you've got your skill sets. But what you probably suck at is the operational side of things, right? Like the finance side of things, like you're grabbing anybody that raises their hand and says, yeah, I've done something like that. I can do. And yeah, and maybe you as the visionary, you're like, no, that guy seems pretty organized. That gal seems like she could probably nail something like this. I like her energy. Let's bring her in. Let's give her a shot at this. But the tricky part is that then you begin to scale and you don't realize, no, I'm building on whatever foundation I laid back there when it was just WIT, like whatever it takes, like just make the thing happen. And as you begin to scale, that's when it's really critical that you understand your numbers. But if it's not built on the right foundation, that's when things start feeling shaky. And that's usually when most entrepreneurs start getting most stressed, because then they don't know, well, can we hire somebody else? Should we hire somebody else? I kind of feel like our people should be able to do that, right? There's no data behind that. That's all just gut check. And a lot of times motivated by fear, right? It's like, I don't want to pay any more people. Can't we just milk a few more of our folks to get them to be, no, she can handle that. No, he can handle that. And it can turn into really something pretty catastrophic pretty quick, because you start burning out people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you start burning out cash too.
That's a very good point, Terryn. You do start burning out cash. But I think it's really important to understand your margins, and I would say not just like big picture margins, but like I would advocate for understanding, if you have a product suite, understanding the profitability in each one of your products within the product suite, to really get clear on how much labor does it really take. If I'm paying outside vendors, because a lot of folks, when they start supplying some of their higher ticket programs, they're going to start bringing in outside vendors. Like, how much does that really take off the bottom line? Because it can feel really good for a visionary who usually is motivated by marketing or sales to knock down the big dollar mark, right? They're knocking down a 25K here, 25K there. They're knocking it down, knocking it down, knocking it down. It's making them feel so good about taking the high dollar amount. But if they don't know how profitable that high dollar amount ticket is, they could actually be doing damage to the business, especially if it's a MRR, a monthly reoccurring revenue, because a lot of times they're taking a bunch of money at the front, or a hearty share of it at the front, without realizing this person is going to need to be fulfilled on throughout the course of this agreement. And so if I take all this money and I allocate it elsewhere, and I still have to fulfill on it in month 12, it turns into a pretty ugly finance situation for my books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also being able to know when you pay people and when you need to pay people, that's working for you and with you on these different things. Do you have an event coming up where you've already paid most of the people working it, most of the agencies, retainers, whatever you have? So that when you do get that $1 million influx, pretty clear you're going to keep most of that? Or is it one of those situations where you're getting that payment and now you got to pay half of it out to pay everybody off? So those are two very different scenarios with what you're going to have left to work with.
Yeah, no, I think that two different sides of it are this. And I think that anytime that you're looking at considering bettering your books, anytime that you're looking at really bettering anything in your business, I think it's really important to think through, am I just pulling this stuff out of thin air? Am I just Googling this stuff? Am I just asking my friends? You know what I mean? Or do I actually really understand what's going on here? Because I think that it's very important for you to get very, very clear on this stuff at the foundation level, right? So even if you have to go backward, and I'm not saying you have to redo all your books for all time's end, but I will say, like, we're pretty early in the year right now, right? We're still just outside of Q1, like maybe backing it up to beginning of 2025. Let's get the on-ramp going for a clean year. Like, if I'm going to go backwards, let's go backwards in a budgetable spot. But two different conversations, and I think it's really important to keep in mind, is your books may be being done either on a cash basis or an accrual basis. And I think it's really clear to get clear on that, because your accountant may have assumed something that they're misassuming. The difference is the cash basis is cash collected as of now. I know exactly what I'm doing this month based upon a cash basis. Accrual we may be pulling costs or be pulling payments out over a period of time, which is really, really critical for what you just said, Terryn. I do a big launch, I do a big event, and I sell millions of dollars. And I know we do big events for Pedro, or big events for Steven Diaz, or big events for, guys out there who would just knock down millions of dollars for events, right? But the wisdom behind that is, I loved about Steven Diaz's scorecard for his finance, Tim, is that, which I would advocate for, right? EOS, Entrepreneur's Operating System, the book Traction by Gino Wickman, level 10 meetings. That works in every department, right? So roll out a finance level 10 meeting based on that framework and have a scorecard that you're looking at for your numbers. One of the things I really loved about Stephen Diaz's scorecard for his finance L10 is the whole idea of cash versus accrual, looking at the profitability for their fiscal year from a cash perspective, real time now, what we just collected, and an accrual perspective of, okay, do we have monthly recurring stuff that's going to come in over time? Do I have payments that are going to need to go out for vendors that are fulfilling this over a set of time? Let's say you sell a coaching product and you know that, man, you just collected a grip of cash at this live event, but you're going to need to be paying coaches for the next 12 months to fulfill on that sale that you made in month 1 in January. You better make sure that you hold enough reserves in the accounts to be paying those coaches off all the way downstream. Otherwise, you could get in a really bad cash pinch. So to look at both sides of that, and I would say it's great to have on your scorecard, hey, let's flip it to accrual. Hey, let's flip it to cash and see which each one of those are. And we would look at it on a weekly basis of, hey, how are things looking from a profitability perspective when we look at the books through 2 different filters, which I think is really important.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
You touched on another good thing that I think is really important, and that is, do you have a process in place to know how you're paying out your people, right? Because let's say also you have coaches that are fulfilling for you. Do you have a solid thing in place to make sure that Shirley, the coach, didn't charge you for that client twice? Let's just assume she did it by accident. Well, do you know that she didn't already charge you for that session? Or are you getting double dipped? You know, there are a lot of people that they just start running and gunning and they're just hiring coaches and they're just trying to fulfill on their products. And they're moving so fast. They haven't thought about, we really need a check and balance system that I'm not just trusting that people are being honest in the way they're billing me. You know, like somebody that's not only cutting the checks and making the payment, usually that's never the visionary anyway, right? So you've entrusted that to somebody on your team that is actually taking in the invoices, probably coming to you for approval if you're that far in the process. You say yes, they go back, they execute payment, but are we battle testing the things that we're paying to make sure there's not overlap or places where we're getting charged for things twice? Or like you were saying, I mean, a big, big, big culprit is tech. Like you were saying, Harry, you've probably signed up for a bunch of annual subscriptions that you've forgotten about. That's just dinging your bank account over and over again. And you've stopped using that tool years ago. Terryn, how many did you had to go check reconciliation and just were like, I just identified $100,000 worth of charges that fall from been charged.
Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite things we do when we come to a new client, because it's an easy way to validate what they're paying for our services. That's a quick win for us and for them to look at something nobody's asked about before and to look at it and go, do we need this? Calculate it up and be like, there's $1,000 a month for you, or there's 15 grand this year you just saved. Like, so yeah, you're paying us X amount, but right up with what we lowered for you. And it's amazing what you'll find. I just got logins for something I didn't think this client of mine had. I didn't think anybody on their team had this. I got logins. They've been paying for it for 4 years. Nobody's touched it in 3 years.
Oh man, it's easy for us. Like, obviously we hear about those things. We're thinking, how could they do that? They're so dumb. Let me tell you what, you start growing and you really start knocking down dollars and you're really ascending. Those smaller amounts, you stop looking at them, right? A lot of times visionaries are only looking at the top line. They're just looking at, hey, if I could just grow sales by this much more, if I could just win this many more accounts, if I should just do this, the rest of it's just going to take care of itself. Like, I don't have to worry about these small little piddly charges that I hear, that I see. But it's like, there are two ways to grow cash in your business. You can grow cash with sales and you can grow cash by saving money. Both of those things are actually vehicles that can drive cash, but the only one that you have absolute control over is saving money. Like growing sales, like that takes somebody else's choices, right? I can choose on how I save money. So get really clear on, do I need all these pieces of technology? Okay, the best way, and Terryn, I love the way you do this. You always do this so well. Every account you do it great. When you come in, you're like, hey, who owns this piece of technology, right? We've got to establish the owner, right? Because if a piece of technology doesn't have an owner, then guess what? Nobody's paying attention to it. Probably the majority of people aren't using that tool. Maybe they are. Maybe it's like a collective one. Maybe it's like Slack. You're like, okay, well, who owns Slack? I would say whoever's running your director of ops, they own Slack. Any of those like collective one tool serving many on the team, roll that up underneath your director of ops. But anything else, like your marketing team probably has a whole set, a whole tech stack they're working with. And the director of marketing should be the one you're holding accountable for that. Your director of finance, if they're not the same thing as your director of ops, they probably have some technology that's tucked into them too. QuickBooks and anything that they're doing with Tax Jar and like Tax 1099 or whatever the different pieces are that they're using. Like they've got some different pieces that they're probably paying into, and that's fine. We need to, at a leadership level, decide, do we need all these pieces of technology? But the first thing you have to do, just like you said, inventory what we're paying for and assign an owner to it. That way you can get really, really clear. And if nobody raised their hand, you send out that message several times, nobody will raise their hand and tell you if that piece of technology has been using. We need to cut that sucker free. You know what I mean? Because we're just wasting money. Nobody's using it.
Yeah, 100%. And another area we like to look at too is contracts, as we mentioned before, especially when it comes around payments. You know, a big question we like to ask, are we paying them ahead or are we paying them behind?
Yep.
Because it might not matter now, but it's going to matter when we go to cut them loose.
Yep.
You know, are we going to cut them loose at the end of the month after they already completed their services before we pay them for another month?
Yep.
Or we cut them loose at the beginning of the month before they accumulate time and bill us, because cutting them loose at the wrong time, or they might try to squeeze an extra invoice in knowing whoever's going to pay is just going to pay because they don't know when they get paid or how they get paid.
Right. Yeah. And listen, like it's very, very easy. And this comes back to labor percentage, something you mentioned at the beginning. When somebody starts getting overwhelmed that's controlling your books, they're just trying to get tasks off their desk, right? So like if they're coming up on a pay period and they know you have 120 vendors to pay, guess what? They're not spending time pulling apart every single one of those invoices. They're falling just hit and go. If you give them green light, they're hit and go. Why? Because they've got to get all 120 of those payments out. You know what I'm saying? So they're not thinking about all 120 of those. I'm like, is this the right payment amount? Are they billing us the right amount? How much did they bill us last time? Did that have rollover into this month? Wait a minute. Shouldn't we be getting more for this? Like they're not analytically reading through your invoices coming in. They've got a very simple function. They receive an invoice. They put it into your payment platform. However you pay those invoices, they push it out to you for approval. You green light it, and then they pay. That's if you have a process at all. There are a lot of people I know that are still inboxing things. An inbox comes in to Sheila's inbox for some reason, finance stuff. Sheila pushes it to Mr. or Mrs. Visionary. Hey, is this approved to pay? Is this approved to pay? Is this approved to pay? And then it's like this quagmire of like emails and like, did I hit everybody? Am I out of sync with anybody? And then you start getting vendors that get mad. And so then like vendors that are mad get paid fast, right? But it's like, wait a minute. Should we be paying that vendor? Like, and so I would say first things first, if you don't have a process, if you don't have a system, Bill.com's real cheap. You know, you don't have to commit to some big PEO out there that's like doing everything all in one house. Like Bill.com it's like, I think it's like $50 per seat or something like that. Buy one seat, have everybody start emailing into the Bill.com email address. It puts it all on the platform for you. Then it can be pushed over and then it can be sent over to you as visionary. And you can say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no on should it be paid. And then you can decide, do you want to execute that payment or you just want to tell the person that's going to execute payment that they're going to pay. And then they go through and pay. That's the way I would do it. If you don't have a system in place right now, easiest way to do it. We put it on sheets before in the past where if you don't want to pay anything, but I would say that ends up being a little bit more labor intensive when you're putting all the information into a sheet because it has to be linked back somewhere. Because the first thing a visionary is going to ask is, well, what is this? I need to see this invoice. Well, if you don't have that link somewhere, then you have to go find that invoice. Text. So Bill.com, the nice thing is you push over to the approver opens up the app. They can click on any invoice they want. They can drill down on it as far as they want to go. And then we're at least all talking from the same platform. So I would say put a process in place, but then also realize we're probably talking about two different seats. The person executing payment may or may not be the person you want actually battle testing should those payments be paid. And that once again comes back to an owner. Who owns this? Who owns this contractor? Who's responsible? Is this a marketing vendor? Is this an ops vendor? Is this a finance vendor? Is this a sales vendor? Each one of those people, you should have representatives on your team that are holding that space that are responsible for those people.
Yeah. And the other thing you should do in line with that is create your payout schedule, whatever you want it to be, once a week, every other week, twice a month. Start responding to all invoices with this, hey, thanks for sending this over. We pay on this date and this date. That's the next day you'll be paid. And what this is going to create for you is time to do all these approvals, to run through your processes, to make sure things are accurate and correct. And back to the finances issue, you're going to start having regular recurring payment dates. So you know when you need cash in the bank, and you can run historicals to see on average how much you're paying each cycle so that you can better budget and forecast for the future. And you know, on the 15th of the month, I'm going to pay on average $100,000 for all these to cover any invoice that happened in the last 15 days.
That's great. You hit on two things there that I think are super brilliant. And first one is like a payment cadence, right? Like visionaries, stop promising everybody they're going to get paid when they want to get paid. Even stop telling people they can get paid the way they want to get paid. No, you pay the way that works best for your team to pay. So that means they're sending you a PayPal invoice, they're sending you a Stripe invoice, they're sending you a Honeybook invoice, they're sending you over a Wave invoice, whatever it is. They've got all their electronic ways that they want to be paid. No. If you want to get paid, you sign up on our platform to get paid. You email it in this way, put in your banking information. I'll fund it from here. But that keeps your person executing payments from having to chase down a million different ways to pay people. No. We pay people one way and we pay people on this cadence. That way you're not having to pay a bunch of staff to pay people. How stupid, right? We're paying a bunch of people to pay people, or this is this person's full-time job every day because we're pushing payments to them that need to get paid every day. That's not right? And then the other part of that is not only having a platform, but also an expected pay. So I would say getting your P&Ls clear. And this, I'm going to lean into this real quick. And that is find a bookkeeper or an accountant. Probably an accountant's not going to do bookkeeping. It's very hard to find one that does both, right? So find whoever's doing your actual bookkeeping, that's keeping your books tight, that understands your business model. Because not all bookkeepers, not all accountants are created equal. So as you're vetting your finance professionals, make sure, do they understand a coaching environment? Do they understand an online business solely? Do they understand a brick and mortar solely? Like what kind of businesses? Because not all bookkeeping and accounting is created equal. We do a lot of bookkeeping here at the Collab team. If that's ever something you need done, especially for the education space, especially for online entrepreneurs who have a education product that they're selling built around some sort of launch with monthly reoccurring, like we kick ass and do that all day long, every single day. We also do a lot of coffee business accounting, so if you need coffee business help, you can reach out to us on any of our socials or shoot us over an email at HQ at the Collab team. We'd love to have a conversation with you about it. But I just think more than anything, it's most important that you find professionals that understand what you need so they can get you the report so that you can make good decisions and you don't have to carry that anxiety, right? Maybe you don't like looking at spreadsheets. That's okay. Make them create for you a dashboard that speaks from the spreadsheet that they understand, but get really clear on your numbers, because the higher you grow, the bigger you grow, the harder it is to make decisions if you're not clear on exactly where your money's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Aaron, I think just to highlight that, the very base of it, all we're talking about here is systems. And that's where we kick button. Just find someone that can create systems.
Absolutely. And if you're like, hey, I just need a little more education around that, Ops Experts Academy, that's something we do all day long, every day. And I think I spend at least 4 sessions in really drilling down on your finances. So opsexpertsacademy.com, you can check that out there if you're interested in hearing more. Terryn, thank you so much for spending time with me. Ops Experts, thanks so much for joining us for another week at Ops Expert Club. And I hope you guys have a great week.
Peace out.
Thank you for tuning in to the Ops Experts Club podcast. New episodes available every week on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere you listen to podcasts. If you're curious about how some of the biggest names in entrepreneurship have scaled their businesses to the next level, check out some of our best content on this topic by going to foundationsthatscale.com. You can find the link in our bio and do your part to improve as an ops expert.